what could benefit beings, humanity in this case, mostly, but also planet Earth and creatures here and the oceans. And because I'm not just here for the people, I'm here for the whole planet. That's my sense, my calling. So from that state of sort of liberation, what then are you in service to? What's then authentic if it's no longer about you as a person in your relationships, sort of like standing true in your authenticity? Then it becomes more about what serves people the most. That's why my way of being authentic expresses itself in such paradoxical ways sometimes, because it's different in each scenario with each person depending on their makeup and their consciousness. And it gets so complicated that it's really hard to talk about. But it sounds complicated, but for me, it's like, when you're unzipping a package that contains like 10 gigabytes, it's kind of like that. So you receive the package, you receive the 10,000 photos all at once, and you just click one button and it unzips to your computer. It takes time to unzip it to your computer, but it's all contained all at once as soon as you get that zip file. It's kind of like that for me when I'm interacting with a person. The information is instantly there. The time it takes for that to be acted out in linear time depends on the speed of the person's capacity to be conscious of the dialogue in a certain way. And there's just so many elements that play into this that's really hard to describe without making sort of this psychedelic dimensional fractal visualization where you see different strains and vibrations of energy all playing into one another from higher levels into the denser levels. And finally, the last portion of all this information is the very, very small percentage of all that information that actually is able to reach the conscious mind of the person that I'm with. So while I'm getting all this information, while I'm sensing into all this relevance, what you're ultimately having to deal with, so to speak, or what you're attempting to liberate is the 0.01% of that zip filed information that they are actually able to be conscious of. And so it takes kind of like this great love and compassion and patience, because all this information, you feel it. It's not that you see their whole life in images and details, but it's, you've downloaded the whole package. You sense their higher self, and you sense the discrepancies and the distortions and the mixed vibrations that are not allowing them to be fully that embodiment, the channel of their higher self. So that's what you feel, that's what you sense, both what they're capable of, who they are in truth, and where they're currently positioning themselves, and all the things that stand in the way, most of which they believe is actually their own opinion and their own thinking and their own free thought and their own desires. So you're talking to a being that doesn't understand themselves. They don't see the truth of who they are. But here you are aware of this information, and you can use your mouth, you can use your body language, you can use your aura, your energy field, your capacity to have an intention, hold a space for someone. And that's pretty much it. That's what you're allowed to utilize on this level. And so using that, you're trying to translate this gigantic vision that you have of them. And your interaction with them is now only authentic when you're in full acceptance of who they are and where they're at, while simultaneously having the only intention being, if there is an opportunity to make a difference, for them to align with their higher selves more, whether or not they realize that this is what they're doing or the nature of the conversation is, and you have that permission to do so without infringing upon their free will, go for it. So you see, this is a completely different state than an individual really thinking that they are a personal self, separate from the whole, trying to find their authentic alignment back to source. Since I've already done most of that work, so to speak, and this whole realm has opened up to me, which I call being a mirror being or mirror consciousness. What is authentic for me is not personal anymore. It's not like, well, what's authentic for me right now is to stay really true to my point of view and to not let anyone else bother me. No, I see from as many points of view as I can in every scenario. That's why it can actually be debilitating if I get too much feedback, because I take on all these points of view and I kind of lose. I don't have a center in that way at this level. So I have to kind of separate myself from that environment to really ask myself, what is the clear path here? Because there's just too many points of view available, and they're all valid. So sometimes I have to practice actually being more of a separate entity that holds on to their own point of view, because otherwise I'd just be such a chameleon that I would lose any capacity to be of service. Did this answer your question?